My name's Rab Christie. I'm the creative director of the Comedy Unit, a company that makes comedy programmes in Glasgow, Scotland. I wanted to be an actor, honestly, just for the fun of it, really. It was when I was at university and when I was at school, it was great fun. It was a great way of having a laugh and great way to meet girls. A better way of meeting girls than breaking windows or anything like that. And a better way of getting paid than going to teacher training college. And it's also a bit of a holiday as well if you can get on a good tour and everything. And the camaraderie, really. But then when I became an actor, I realised that actors do have a lot of power to be funny or to be serious or to educate. After Y touring, I was in a film called Small Faces with a lot of Glasgow actors, and then I was in a series called Hamish Macbeth, and I did some theatre, and then I sort of gradually get in more to comedy writing, comedy performing and producing, and at the moment I produce comedy shows, Rab Christie, Let Me Show, Gary Tank Commander, Burniston, Only an Excuse. Some of them will, but they're Scottish shows and some of them are network shows. The Inner Circle, I think initially it was an American play, and then it was quite heavily adapted to suit UK schools touring. I played the character Mark, who is HIV positive, and you're never sure how he's contracted it, and he's got three pals, Danny, Kathy and Sarah, I think it is, and there's sort of ins and outs in his story, and you find out how he got it, how he contracted, how he became HIV positive, and then he dies at the end, and it's set up for the workshops and everything. Before I did the Inner Circle, I did a lot of comedy and sort of pantomime and not very serious theatre, and playing Mark's a very serious part and you don't want to treat it lightly, and I was given a book and I bought another book and I read a couple of books about people who'd been in that situation and getting the real side of it, and also delivering it in a way to the kids in the schools that would keep them interested, but not treat it lightly, so that you could convince them enough to. I mean, sometimes you didn't want everybody crying and weeping and bawling and greeting. You know, you didn't. Sometimes they were emotionally affected, but you didn't want them too emotionally affected. You wanted them to think about it. But other times they were laughing, but you wanted them still to get into it as well. And also being from Glasgow, some of I think being some places down south, they weren't used to hearing the Glaswegian accent, so some things I said got big laughs unintentionally. So that was something I had to combat against. It's very disciplined, which is good for a young actor. You sort of early start. I mean, people talk about acting not being a 9-to-5 job, but this is pretty much 8 to 3, or you know, half 7 to half 4 sort of thing. And so you tend to get up. You were staying in quite a nice hotel. Then you'd get up, you'd load the van, get down to the school, take the stuff out the back. Our set was, it seemed to have a lot of poles in it, I remember. And in January, there's the thing about the cold air and the cold hands and the cold poles getting out the back of the van. But maybe try to be chivalrous, I would always volunteer to take the poles, and the girls would carry their makeup bags or whatever. No, but I would take the poles in. So you'd get into you'd either be doing 2 schools a day or 1 school a day. If you were doing 1 school, then you didn't have to take the set down. You'd get in, put the set up. I had to put the set together using a spanner, I remember, and then make my own bed, which I get pretty skilled at, and then we'd do the show and then do the workshop. Sometimes get the delights of the school canteen, which was, I think it's improved a wee bit since the early 90s. Then go to another school and do another workshop. So, sometimes we'd do evening performances as well to the sort of local community, which was interesting, and just the different. You'd go to educational areas, and even some, I remember we went to a place in London where it was kids who, the term they used was school phobic, but it was kids who just the difficulty fitting into conventional education, and I found that quite interesting, that using this show you were going to different sorts of audiences and hopefully getting the message across. There's some, the way I pronounced gay would always tended to get a laugh, just the pronunciation of it. So I'd say, "Do you think I'm gay?" And it would always get a big laugh. And so we were conscious that we weren't sort of, it wasn't being said for a laugh, it was being said to introduce this into that Mark might have made that lifestyle choice, and that was something we had to talk about. And sometimes you didn't want to be introducing the idea of somebody being gay as being something to joke about, but they'd already laughed at it, so you had to sort of, coming from that point of view, you had to sort of bring a serious discussion about, which was difficult sometimes. Back in the 90s, there was a lot of maybe sex education wasn't spoken about the way it is now. It was something that was laughed at quite a lot, and so I think getting a good it was a challenge sometimes to get it so that people were talking about it seriously and not just sniggering, which I think we did. And also I found that because I was 23 at the time, and I think I was the oldest in the cast, so we were pretty close to being the same age as the kids. And so when you started talking you weren't that different from them, and I think they appreciated that. They appreciated that when you were talking to them, it wasn't like a teacher or it wasn't like a book. It was a way of getting a discussion going. And so I remember this wee kid said to me, I wouldn't, if a girl won't go all the way with me, then there's no chance. If a girl won't go all the way with me, then she can forget it. And I said, what, you wouldn't let her even do anything else? You wouldn't there's nothing else you could think a beautiful woman could do to you? And he got all embarrassed and he went, yeah. It was like that way where I felt I was talking to him just in you're saying you're daft, you turned down a beautiful woman, doing everything except the big thing with you. And he was sort of, I don't know, you felt like you were getting the message through chatting as opposed to, some sort of doctrine. I certainly did. I mean, I do think for actors, especially young actors, you might get half a day in a television drama or a soap or something where you've got a couple of lines, or you might get a small part in a play in a rep theatre where you've got a very small part and you're only on for a wee bit. But the great thing about a show like The Inner Circle is, you've got a big part, you've got a long time to do it, you can really get your teeth into it, and like if you're dying, like I was dying twice a day for 6 months, so it's quite an emotional challenge, and you won't get that even at drama school, you won't get that level of intense training, if you like, and also just the discipline of having to do it every day. I know a lot of actors that really enjoy that because you're working every day, working hard, then you get the weekends off, and then you're back into it. The thing I remembered with Why Touring was it all threads through from the subject that's been tackled into the play, into the workshop. I know other companies would have a play and then they'd just throw on a workshop, or there would be a theme for talking to kids about with maybe a wee bit of a play in it. But Why Touring, it all seemed to fit together. There seemed to be a clear sense of it. But a sentence, I think Why Touring's an essential collaboration between the performers and the audience. I think the audience get something out of it from an educational point of view, and the performers get something out of it because they get to grow as performers, and it comes together, and it's a worthy coalition.